The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade. Welcome to The Unfiltered by Jade, where we educate, empower, and entertain. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, download, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to The Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here Michelle Razz, and we're here to speak about executive dysfunction. Before we even go into the topic, I want to introduce her to you. So, hi, Michelle.
Hi, Jade. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Yes, it's my passion.
Before we even go into it, can you just tell the audience about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yes, this has been a passion of mine that developed from personal struggles with executive functioning challenges within my own family that took me on a journey where I became certified as an ADHD specialist that morphed into career specialist, author, and through the journey became board certified coach. I've been in this field for 15 years. My new pitch that I like to tell people is that I take neurodiverse professionals from feeling like a misunderstood outsider to feeling like they belong through an exploration process that I developed that identifies their strengths, so that they can contribute at work, in the academia, regardless of their weaknesses. This is a process I've developed over the last 15 years that empowers and gives tools to everyone to navigate around their weaknesses so they can be successful in life.
Well, that's packed.
Yes, it is my jam every day.
I'm excited to know about this. Because to be honest, I had no idea about this at all.
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, there are parts of it that I knew about, but as in the executive dysfunction as a broader term, I had no idea about that. So it's going to be interesting to have this conversation with you and learn more, because I mean, that's what we're here to do.
Right.
So, Michelle, tell me first of all, what is executive dysfunction?
Mm-hmm. So the definition of it is that executive functioning refers to a set of cognitive processes that control and regulate other cognitive and behavioral processes. It's the command center, so to speak. There's comparisons to an air traffic control system. It's the part of the brain that is regulating everything so that it operates smoothly, communicates. In our brains, what we're talking about, the processes that they're regulating is the attention, the working memory, self-control, flexibility in their thinking, and initiation of actions, task initiations.
That's interesting. What are some examples of this?
Okay, absolutely. So the executive functioning skills that can be affected by poor executive functionings have to do with short-term memory. People that are diagnosed with ADHD that are on the spectrum, could be stress related, might be struggling with working memory, attention to details, the ability to plan and prioritize ahead, so that these things get in the way of success on a daily basis. You probably have seen somebody at work that is brilliant. They are a motivator. They get things done, but you might walk into their desk and there is just stacks of papers everywhere. Or
Mhm.
it's the person that's showing up late to the meetings. They can't meet a deadline, but yet they're brilliant. They've got a charisma about them. Or maybe there's somebody that lacks the organization to be able to gather their thoughts, but yet written word is beautiful for them. So it presents itself in so many different aspects in a person's life that it's a very individualized um, uh, a process that needs to be addressed for what is happening on a scale for each individual person that has these executive functioning challenges, is what I call them, more of challenges. And I like to use the word challenges because it's not really necessarily something that can't be solved. It's very solvable. It's something that can be managed with, like with ADHD, with medication that can help slow the brain down, so that they can take some of the behavioral assets they've been taught or working with somebody to develop and implement them. So it's something that can be managed and improved upon given the right scenario and resources, such as coaching, like what I've been doing for so many years. And so in the workforce, it's phenomenal. There's research from the National Resource for Center for ADHD that shows that coaching has resulted in 30 to 50% improvement in employees' productivity. So you can imagine, you're at work, and if you can have somebody that can help you create some routines and systems, and then another huge piece of what I do is the accountability piece. It can help the disorganized become organized, the poor time management become very managed with strategies and routines, coming up with strategies for short-term memory that they can follow through with things. So it's a very in-depth and multimodal approach, I would say, for these people struggling with executive functioning challenges.
So I'm listening to you and I'm like, it sounds it's it's something that we see. We probably see daily with persons, but we don't put put a title to it or put a name to it naturally or normally. Because it's so interesting that it's so far on the prism of each of them. So someone can be so messy, but that's how they get their job done. It's kind of, yeah. It's like, as you said, their table is full of stacks of people, but yet still they're doing their job and they're doing it well. So sometimes you look at it and you're saying, is it that this person functions better in a messy place? Um, or is it just a dysfunction? But you're saying it's
Mhm.
really a dysfunction that's happening.
Yeah, here, you just touched on a really good point that a lot of the clients that I work with, they are extremely high functioning, brilliant. As a matter of fact, a long time ago, I wrote a paper about somebody that was at risk with ADHD being an at risk, and they are just at risk of not meeting their potential as somebody on the low end with their high level of ability. Their aptitude is extremely high, but because of the dysfunction in the organization, the time management, inability to plan, they're not living it up to their expectations, their own expectations, right? And then their ability, because the mental toll that the disorganization, the fogginess that can happen, the inability to prioritize the tasks because of this neurological factor with, especially with ADHD, as we're talking about executive functioning challenges, that it becomes very taxing on them mentally. So these people that you see, they're performing, but they can also implode. Maybe
Mm.
behind the scenes, there are depression, a lot of
Ah,
anxiety.
okay.
They're high functioning, but they've also really struggle with self-esteem because of they feel very inadequate when they miss a deadline. They show up late. They um, have that paper. They know where to find something, but it takes them 15 minutes to find it because of the lack of organization.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, a lot of they feel that they're compensated a lot at work. I've had, oh gosh, recently a young attorney that was on his fourth job assignment and brilliant, went to Ivy League school, but was at the risk of losing yet another job because of the poor time management and planning ability. But what typically will happen is that they will get so frustrated with themselves, they will dig in and hyper focus to get something done and exhaust themselves doing it, come out on top and do very, very well. But the burn happens, and then they might then completely fall apart from that exhaustion, and then kind of sink back in and get behind again. So it starts a cycle. So it's a very interesting phenomena that I see with these individuals that I work with.
Mm, interesting. Um, you mentioned ADHD, so it's
Mhm.
similar to executive dysfunction, or is a part of executive dysfunction then?
Exactly. So the executive functioning skills are a set of skills that we all need, right, for the time management, planning, execution, emotional regulation. ADHD is as a piece of that. That's the hallmark. Is that what I would tell people? Is that people with ADHD typically really struggle in multiple areas of this. It can be
Oh,
all, just be one area. I have people that are highly organized, but they have a hard time initiating the task. So, part of those executive functionings have to do with multitasking, organizing, planning, prioritizing, and they may have one or multiple weak areas. Or you have somebody that is very organized, able to plan and prioritize, but they are emotionally dysregulated often. The amount of energy it takes to do these things leaves them depleted. And so they may be somebody that is impulsive and reacts quickly to situations, and needs some that impulsivity in the ADHD causes them to lose that pause time. So they're just reacting. And so what my work is to help them create strategies so they can organize, they can plan, they can learn to pause and raise their self awareness of where their challenges lie and where their strengths lie.
okay.
So, oftentimes when they come to me, they're pretty self-defeated at this point, and worried they're going to lose their job, worried, if it's an academic situation, they're going to be kicked out of the college, be on academic probation. And we look for the strengths. What is the good? These people are neurodiverse, right? And neurodiversity, right, was you have extreme highs and extreme lows, right? And where the neurotypical is kind of in the middle. And so what I see with people, with ADHD is you're very, very good in one area, super high focused, and then there's this deficit piece. And so with the coaching, we really come in and work with them on the positive, the strengths to boost that feeling of accomplishment and confidence, empower them. And then we look at the weaknesses, and we don't try to necessarily fix them. We can improve them, but we talk a lot about resources and strategies to work around those. Most of the people that I work with have spent a lifetime trying to fix it. And there's such great technology out there these days that there is just a plethora of ways that people can have workarounds to those areas that are weaknesses. So we talk about those executive functioning challenges. They can still be the conductor. They can be the conductor of their life, but they're going to delegate and have a piece of their weakness be some support that's going to help and contribute to their overall orchestra, right? So
Mhm.
that you can't do everything, and that's kind of the approach that I take with the professionals that I work with.
So for the all right, so with executive dysfunction, can it be a branch of trauma? Can trauma cause this?
That's a really good point. I've seen some readings on that recently, actually. You know, trauma presents itself, right, in many ways. Chaos to the brain, trying to make sense of what happened or what is happening. And so ADHD specifically can be biologically based, and there's also some environmental factors. So when you look at trauma, I believe personally that it can absolutely affect your executive functioning skills. If you're constantly exposed to disruption in your life, maybe you're moving around place to place, you don't have a sense of security and whatnot, you don't develop those neural pathways at a young age to lay the foundation for planning, for emotional regulation, and organization, because it wasn't modeled within the home.
Hmm.
So I believe it's certainly a factor in that. And this is, again, where coaching can come in so helpful to these situations, because you can start to peel back what it is that was missing and learn how to organize, learn how to plan. Sometimes I'll get people that have come to me, in their 40s, 50s, even 60s, and they want to change their life. And we say, you've spent a lifetime developing these habits, this way of living, whether it be because it was the environmental way that you were raised or genetically you're pre-programmed to this, but it's going to take time to reset this. And so we will start to create some strategies in routines that then can build habits. And I've seen countless success stories, but it doesn't come easily. I mean, and this is the idea, is that you have a coach, you have this accountability, and it takes time. You're going to have some good days, some bad days. You go 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But on
Mhm.
a long trajectory, you see a real positive change, and people can get back a sense of balance in their life and feel empowered and confident that they are capable of doing what they want in life.
Nice. What does executive dysfunction look like in adults versus kids?
Probably not a lot.
I'm just saying, with adults, I don't know if it is that with adults they probably can manage it better than with kids. I'm not sure.
Sometimes I wonder, it's kind of funny, right? You might have a sibling out there that was the messy one, the ADHD one that was always flying off the handle, at a young age. And then later on in life, you walk into their house and you're like, oh, yes, or they were successful and hired a housekeeper. They have an organizer they've hired. But in adulthood, you're right. Some people develop these skills over time because of necessity, right? As adults, we realize, if I want to put food on my table, I have got to figure this out.
Yep.
And so I find people that have become highly organized when it comes to their work, but when they get home, it's a different story. Those old habits are there.
Mm.
So let's just say that this can happen in a young child or in an adult. But when something is super important to you, you really want that, you will do whatever it takes to make that happen. And so for a student, you might think they want to go to college. So they will put in the work and force themselves to develop habits and routines so they can have that end goal, especially if they have some coaching involved. So, and as an adult, if you have to put food on the table for a family, you're going to make sure that you return those emails, you return those phone calls, you do the paperwork, you do your invoicing. And so they put that stress upon themselves to do that. Now, is it smooth sailing? Probably not. As I highly recommend bringing in resources for people to do those things that they're not so good at. But I think at the adult level, you have that awareness, and as a student, a child, you don't, but you can develop it over time. And as soon as you have that self-awareness, then you can go get the help you need.
So it's important also for kids, because kids are not really cognizant of probably what's happening. So it's important that when it is that parents see kids probably acting out in a particular way, to get them tested to see, if everything's okay, and how now do I need to proceed if I find out that my child has, or your child has, some dysfunction in somewhere, or ADHD, something. Because a lot of times parents, we see their kids, behaving in this particular way, always messy, and just think that the child just needs to learn how to put their stuff together. Just learn how to do it, not realizing, okay, this has been happening for some time, even though we have been speaking to you about it. So let's now take further steps to ensure that there's nothing on the line that we need to check out or we're missing. So the onus would really be on the parents to do that for the kids.
And the young age, and this is the part that I've experienced in my life, is that ADHD has a genetic component to it. I've seen or heard research up to like 77-78% genetically being passed down. If you have ADHD, it will be passed down. And that I'm using that example because it is kind of the hallmark for executive functioning challenges. Right. And so you will see that in the household, and so that can be the catalyst that gets somebody to go out there and get the help. Because if you are modeling that dysfunctional behavior, most likely you're turning this into an environmental factor for the child. And so it could be exactly the motivation to get the help as an adult, saying you're setting that example. And so how organized are you in the home? What's your emotional regulation inside the home? A long time ago, I was in a meeting with NAMI. I was part of the group, and we were talking about, what is the temperature of your home when you walk in that door? Is it icy cold, 50 degrees, put on a sweater, 70 degrees, nice and warm, or 90 degrees, super hot, and you just can't wait to get out? And part of these executive functioning challenges can be emotional regulation and your ability to respond and be proactive in the way you handle stress, and where do we unwind at home. And so these are things that are factors, and it affects everybody that you live with. It affects everybody that is living in that home. And so whether it be an emotional regulation issue, or an organizational issue of where do you put things in the home, where are the keys, where are the codes, where are the shoes, where are the study bags, what does your refrigerator look like? Are you demonstrating, some kind of order and structure? Structure is really important.
Yes.
And so it can be motivational for adults to look at themselves while they're experiencing some of these challenges with their children in the home.
That's important. That's an important point. How can we treat this? And I know you mentioned coaching. How is it that we can treat executive dysfunction?
Yeah. And so, the first line is, of course, meet with a professional, psychiatrist, psychologist, doctor. And there's a lot of great different medications out there, stimulants, non-stimulants. I'm a big proponent of also looking at supplements. There's some fabulous supplements out there that can help naturally with different neuropsych type of things that won't even get into here. So obviously, have professional health, nutrition. Diet is a huge factor, looking at what you're eating, what time of day you're eating, and how your body reacts to it. There's some great science out there right now about
Mm.
how what we eat affects us. And, we are what we eat. I don't know
Yes,
about you, but
yes, it is. We are what we
yeah,
eat, definitely. Hmm.
yeah, and it really, the science is there for it. And so when I work with a client, I look at the whole picture, the medical background and their diet. Exercise is scientifically proven
Key.
to
Hmm.
help.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and stress. What stress factors are in your life? Because that's definitely a factor. Whether you just have ADHD or you have other executive functioning challenges, that's a big piece of it. And then, yes, there's alternative treatments. Coaching, I believe, is a really proven one. Since, like I said earlier, there's definitely some proof around that to where I told you 30 to up to 50% improvement in productivity at work with coaching, and 80% in the job forces. There's research that they have increased job satisfaction. So that is a big factor. And then there's some alternative things like mindfulness, right, and meditation, yoga. So there's I think you could take one person and prescribe a multiple approach to helping them get regulated, get away from that dysregulation to regulated, and so that they can start to develop those strategies and skills to be more balanced in their life. And let's just say that the coaching can be the at the forefront of that, kind of orchestrating all the different aspects for that particular client.
So, people out there, if it is that you believe or you think that there's a problem and you are going through something, don't be ashamed of it. Just get the help that you need, because we need to get this help to be able to manage in life. Generally,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to go through life, suffering with some of these challenges and not getting the help for it. Michelle, tell us how it is that friends and families can support persons who have these
Yeah.
challenges dealing with, um,
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So empathy really goes a long way. And I'll say that I feel that we are in a great place as society to embrace this and to uh, dis, you know, deconstruct the thought around neurodiversity, because we've had so many people come forward that are highly successful people
Mhm.
and talk about their challenges so that it is normalizing it. You know, I know neurodiversity is, extreme highs, extreme lows, and typical are in the middle, but honestly, aren't we all diverse? Don't we all have struggles in different areas, some more than others?
Mhm.
And honestly, sometimes the positivity that can come out of being neurodiverse is that when you're good at something, you're really good at
Oh, that's
something.
something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if we can demonstrate and show employers that that weakness is worth the investment, to have some support and to have some techniques and strategies, that their bottom line as an employer, the company, they will greatly benefit from it. I mean, the statistics are out there. And so, what can we do to support them? We can accept them, normalize it, have empathy, and a great deal of patience. So, when we are understanding of the situation, and I mean authentically, I don't mean just checking a box that, yeah, okay,
Right.
we got this and move on,
Right.
but truly have that humanistic component to cultivate the strength, the good in that person, so that they can let go of their weaknesses. Because I can tell you personally, they really dwell on those weaknesses.
Mm.
We tend to dwell on what's wrong with us, not what's right with us. And so if we can be mindful of that and grateful for the things that they do really well, they are pretty resilient people. The people that I work with, they don't need a whole lot of praise to turn things around because they're used to not getting it. They're used to hearing a lot of negative feedback. And so I think that those simple things can really turn somebody's life around. And on the boots and grounds, what you can do is, so what if you have to remind somebody just to do something? Maybe help them put a reminder on their phone, help them with
Right.
some strategies so that you can support them along the way and let them know that it's okay.
Yeah. Let them know it's okay. Because sometimes, as you said, we dwell on the negatives more than not. So if someone is on our backs every minute about what we're not doing, it amplifies what we're thinking already. So
Absolutely. And
right.
so, if you're dealing with somebody and you're in the home environment, or actually even at work as well, helping them breaking things down into smaller, manageable steps is a huge factor. And so, because what will happen a lot of times with people that are struggling with EFS, as I call it, they look at something and it's too big and insurmountable, and they don't have the ability to step it down into small, manageable steps. And then anxiety kicks in, which then derails them from doing any kind of planning. And so, if you can partner with them and take a look at a big project and just break it down, keep it really simple, and then check along the way with them, it takes some effort, but it's worth it in the end.
Hmm.
Because if they get into a habit of doing that with things, it will help them shift their thinking so that they can look at the big picture and have that self-awareness. Oh, I'm feeling that. I'm overwhelmed. But then be able to take a step back and say, what do I need to do right now? What can I do right now in this moment? And that word could be really helpful for a family member or a colleague is, I'm sensing you're overwhelmed right now. What can you do? What are you willing to do right now in this moment to
Hmm.
make a step in the right direction for that? So
Yes.
that can be super helpful. And even, with students as well. And then we all know we need a planner, right? And
Yes, you
so
do.
planning is good. And what I tell people with the family is, have a family calendar and make sure that you reinforce the check in with those kinds of things because it's easy to forget, right? And so you can use our technology of reminders in your phone to check in with the family planner or tracking deadlines that need to happen. But there's a lot of different tricks you can do at home.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different ways that persons can be helpful and supportive.
Absolutely. And it really benefits everybody in the end because
Yes,
if
it
you play
does.
on, yeah, yeah, if you play on their strengths, those people are usually very dynamic and, like I said earlier, um, brilliant in whatever their true focus is. And so go with it, go with their true strength.
Nice. Um, this is really interesting, Michelle. Yeah, it's really interesting in the dynamics of each of them. So nowadays, when it is that we are seeing persons, behaving in a particular way, instead of just saying something negative towards them because we really don't know if they're struggling with some of these challenges. So instead of
Mhm.
sometimes us being negative towards them, we can be more empathetic towards them. Um, and
Mhm.
say, you know what, we try and help them in a particular way because we really don't know. We really don't know. And sometimes instead of just labeling people, you're just a chaotic person. You're just untidy. Instead of doing that, it doesn't motivate them. It actually depletes them more. So instead of doing that, we have to be learning to be cognizant more of persons and how they are and how we react to what they're doing.
Yes, and on that note, the way you say something to somebody really affects them no matter what.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but as a tip to somebody, if you're frustrated with somebody and you get the sense that they're not organized, that they're over talking, they interrupt you all the time, they can never plan, they can't prioritize. If you can stop in that moment and just be the observer, observe them, observe yourself, and think, what's going on beneath the surface here? Go deeper than just what's happening in the moment that's getting you frustrated. And if you can be the observer and think of a question that can stop them to get them to think about what's going on, then you can shift them and stop, and they can redirect themselves. Now, I might be something as simple as, you've been trying to plan something, and they're not getting back to you. There's just no follow through with that. And you can simply ask them, so I'm noticing we've been talking about this plan for a while, and we seem to be stuck with it. What is the obstacle in your way from making a decision on this? And oftentimes when I pose things like that to clients, they will say, and they kind of sit back and they stop. Their brains stop and they actually go, that's a really good question. And then we can start to dive down deep and see what's going on and kind of unravel what it is that's keeping them from moving forward with something.
Yeah, that's an important part. It takes a little patience, but it's very important. You'll get better results that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michelle, tell us, where is it that we can find you?
Oh, absolutely. So my website is Razz Coaching, RAZ coaching.com. And that's kind of my hub where you can learn about the work that I do for corporations, HR professionals, individuals, and then academic. I also have an academic coaching company that deals with the exact same things with students. We have about 25 coaches, and that company is called Thrivister.com.
Nice. Nice. I enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot. I can tell you that for a fact.
There's so much.
Yes, and I mean, there's so much to learn. There's so much to gain, and it really, yeah, there's so much to learn from it. And there's so many dynamics to it that sometimes we have to dig deep to figure out, okay, how do I help this person, or how can I be a better person in order to help this person to thrive, because we're all thriving.
Yeah.
And instead of, sometimes as you said, the important part is how we even respond or speak to persons makes a difference. So it's very important. So there's so many gems that you have dropped. There's so many things that we can learn and use in our day-to-day life, not with only our family and friends, but even at work. And when we see things, how we approach it makes a big difference. So that's important. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I'm here to change the lives, one client at a time, or lately it's been groups of people. But it's a passion that I have been on this journey, really 15 years. But, they do run in families, and within my own family, I've had some challenges, and it's been amazing to see the work that I do change the lives of people, not only clients, but even in my own family as well. That's for another time.
Okay, okay.
Thank
Hi.
you.
Thank you so much again, Michelle. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And thank you so much for listening to Unfiltered by Jade. We'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you. Bam, 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 bam,